Good evening, Daru Mitchell, Connected and Protected, Out of the Mud Productions Incorporated. I would like to go with the second part on how we are getting our land back. And this is the state that accords and public notice have been set, and this is history in the making. We have the reclamation of everything that has been taken from us, which means that this will reinstate the people of the land as owners of all that we had before foreigners claimed before they arrived in the United States, or what they call the United States. United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples is a book that has all the notices to all the clans that we follow our oral traditions and grandfather clause ex post factos show where these means that these things are real and relevant because they are based on our governing ourselves. We've been so long out of our true state of existence because of their coming into land, the doctrine of discovery, the things that they did, and how they took our lands, what they reinstituted, and we now have to go back to learning our original knowledge. The United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People is a very specific legal format, tribal, not corporate. Origin of not the interim government, war chief to peace chief, and this occurred most recently, that he gave the declaration for the remedy of the fraud. Fraud mediates all contracts. The control we were under, we were under fraudulent pretense. What's taking place is going to occur in the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People under Article 32, 33, 31, and 13. You're going to have to get to probably either the video with Rod Hayes and Young Elder on public accords and see how these things are written out. But they were taken from our oral traditions, which was how we governed ourselves under the matriarchy of the tribal systems that we had before the doctrine of discovery allowed them to come over here and take our lands. American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, more targeted to the people of Turtle Island. This helps us understand those other articles. Article 14, 22, 25. The systems of knowledge, language, and our communication with each other in our forms of government, rules, laws, and so on and so forth. In a sense, we are going to reclaim all of our lands. They had no right to them, and this alleviates their claim on them. We have had our own ways of doing things and our laws by which we did them in a sense, in a manner that we always had a working government, to say or use that term, but a working order in which we communicated with each other, traded with each other, had a means of currency, and utilized our trade in a mutual way, which allowed everyone to have their needs met to the greatest extent because of all of the ways in which we traded. And between ourselves, we had no desire, we had no real animosities or contrivances that would allow us to either try to beat each other out or, have conflict within our governmental tribal nations or our desired use of the land, our ways in which we traveled, our means by which we communicated, our banking systems, which were always under the matriarchal regime. And we also had many ways in which we desired to have peaceful and harmonious lives amongst each other. The colonial effect or the colonizing effect of this land, which is still present today, has made us so conflictual, and it has us in many ways against setting up even our own ownership of the land and how we as tribes have land to reclaim, and it's already being reclaimed. We as a people in this land must re-establish our own tribes, re-establish our tribal systems, and re-establish it to the point where we govern ourselves totally without the interim governments that are now they actually are defunct, but they're fading very slowly because we are still giving them presence and facilitating their slow, very slow removal. I, at this point in time, cannot correlate between the uh, democratic process of voting, what you are voting on that is no longer relevant, and the fact that as we are reclaiming the land and have the ability to reestablish our own businesses, which whatever businesses are on the land also belong to us. They cannot remove them. And if they do remove even the structure of the businesses which they consider themselves the head of, they can't take the buildings. They can't relieve themselves. They can't remove the financial prowess that those businesses have in this land because they also belong to us, being on the land and in the land. We're going to actually have what they call America return to us as Turtle Island. And the organic people of the land are going to be the rulers over it and the governing system over it and the transference back to having the power within it, which means we have the right to use all of the natural resources and gain source of um, a source of merchandising it ourselves, which will lead us to having our own income from it, which will give us a financial base to run this country on, not based on their fiat currency or any of those manners in which, even though there'll be a slow transition, we will be taken over. And we will be going back to a matriarchal banking system, which is referred to as Big Mama banks, which was always the case up until the war started for the land and the people being made prisoners of war, which weren't slaves. They were actually prisoners of war. And under the terminology that they decided to use to put us all in a backward situation of lies, but it was contrived so intricately that we were dumbfounded by it and didn't realize it because they took all of our elders, the knowledge of our um, the knowledge of ourselves, and gave it other names, other meanings, and other ways to subjugate us to their dominance, which most of us accepted on pain of death, seeing as how we did want to survive, and we kept quiet on other sides about the fact that they were in our land and had captured our land to use it as they desired without our ability to do anything about it. I have come to the point where I must do a lot of my own research to see how these systems are being set up and governed and how they're going to transition. I wish to state that in the sense that this is occurring and is going to take place in a very short amount of time. It's been going on for the last 5 years, and I'm veritably just catching up with it. And it's just now. I mean, I'm excited about it. I'm truly overwhelmed that it is happening in my lifetime. You know, I'm looking forward to the fact that my children, grandchildren, and this nation itself will be, reinstated as the land of the people. You know, the ones that were written about in the Constitution that were actually never included, which made the Constitution also fraudulent because it was not our Constitution. Our Constitution was the League of Tribes that came together and formed the basis on which we would govern ourselves and how we would, traverse the land, have our um, livelihood in the land, have our lives in the land. It was all based on, you know, what this land provided and how we decided we wanted to use it. How I can't go into the magnanimity or the enormity or the amount that's so big of how things were just turned around like we had no part in it. Like we were not doing these things before they came. When in so many ways what we had they stole. We had we basically had all of the things that they claimed they brought into existence before they got here. We had railway systems, we had car systems, or we had road systems, we had trails that they claimed were, initiated by them by sending us in the directions they wanted us to go, but that was not true. We had major ways in which we merchandised and you know transported our merchandising. This is going to be short. This is going to be short tonight. So I wanted to say that, you know, even though this is a world of information, especially our world of information, I don't have it all outlined and categorized and everything to give it the ability to be fully understood, but I have it to the point where this itself is more than enough to take notice of and research yourself. Because if you're not interested, then this is not going to be for you, but it's yours. So I don't see why you wouldn't be interested. I mean, it's been made to seem as though, you have to go to them for everything, but now the fact is that that's being turned around, and you can go to each other for everything. And you have to put yourself in the place to be able to do so. Because somebody's going to come knocking on your door and say, "Can I acquire this from you, or can I acquire that from you?" And you're going to be in a place to say yes or no because it's yours. Even from even from land rights to water rights to the use of the um, uh, uh, um, facilities that bring electricity, excuse me, that brings electricity to your house, so on and so forth. All of these things are yours now. You're going to have the ability to clean up the pollution. You have the ability to stop the polluting. And these things are going to be done in a manner in which you choose to do them. We are a people who, by statement itself, says we will govern ourselves as the people, by the people, for the people. Yeah. So we're going to give ourselves more than enough credit to be able to do these things. And we're going to look forward to, I would say, Empress Chakra Rare Bird, um, Rod Hayes, who is Chief Pontiac, the other chiefs who will be walking across the land. They will be returning from the penal system, the prison system. They will be getting out and should be out by the end of this year. And these are the chiefs who have full knowledge and full ability to reclaim the land, re-establish our original governmental processes and trading systems, all of the things that we did. And this doesn't just stop in Turtle Island. We traded across the world. You know, I hate to say it, but tobacco was our crop. Cotton was our crop, which made this country. We'll get into all of that. And as I said, you can go and find most of these things in the Declaration, in the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, as a very specific legal format, tribal, not corporate. And the control we were under was fraudulent. Articles 32, 33, 31, 13 was written out, but it was originally from our oral traditions. And in the American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, more targeted to the people of Turtle Island, because that's the oral tradition that was written down from that part to give us the understanding of those other articles. You have Article 14, 22, 25, systems of knowledge, language, and communication. And, I can't stress enough that we have to go back and relearn ourselves. We have to learn our true identities, our true heritage, our true lineage, and our true place in this land. Because, I mean, you can still see how we do things as tribes. We call them cliques, gangs, What they call them cliques and gangs. We just call ourselves people who link up, you know, and we have a manner in which we do it. Now, there has been other factors involved that, you know, people who contain this knowledge and kept this knowledge also kept it from us because they were in league with the principal controllers of the land. They were in league with the better they controlled us, the better they lived themselves. And we're going to get to that. They you can call it the black hand, you can call it a shadow government, you can call it, those who actually sold out. You can go into many forms of that, and we'll probably get to it. But if you go into all of this information, you'll find those people who did those things and what their purpose was for doing it. Um, Sadly, that is the case. Um, I'll be back shortly with more information on all of these things that I've broached the subject of. Tonight is like, I'm a bit overwhelmed. I'm very joyous about it, but it's a lot to surmount to, especially since, we have not been brought abreast of this knowledge. We have not been, you know, brought in like we learned our ABCs. But that's what it's going to be like now. We're going to go back to always before colonialism, ABC. And from that point, I'm going to say, like I said, that we're going to go on to the declarations, which are the D's, and we're going to eliminate the falsities of this situation and bring in the truths that were always there but never really talked about. And for the most part, that's going to be about it for tonight. And I'll see you on the next. I'm gonna say like right here is gorilla knot and bring it back to the point where we're going to get all the way into the information, and you can even call in and ask questions, and we'll have be able to give you directions into the areas of knowledge that you want. And with that, I'm going to say good